as promised, once a month, I'm going to review every single Rocky movie within the Rocky franchise, leading up to the Rocky spin-off film, Creed, that's going to be released in November, starting with the film that started it all. Rocky. Now, up until last year, I had never seen every single Rocky movie ever. Like, I remember I'd watched the Rocky series when I was like young. So I have vivid memories of watching all the Rocky movies. So last year I marathoned through all the Rocky movies. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't. But since Creed's about to come out, I want to get my thoughts and opinions on every single Rocky movie. But long story short, I pretty much loved the Rocky series, and I liked it enough that I bought it on Blu-ray. So Rocky came out in 1976, directed by John G. Avildsen. I apologize if I butchered your last name. It is about this guy named Rocky Balboa. He's a hard-living but failing professional boxer from an Italian neighborhood of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He also works as an enforcer for loan shark Anthony Gazzo, and he is regarded by many as a bum. Now, I loved how they conveyed that aspect of Rocky because, like, just from the first 10 or 15 minutes alone, you see him go from that first boxing match. He barely gets paid for winning that match, and then he goes home, he walks to the street, he's meeting with everybody. Everyone pretty much knows him, but he's pretty much a bum to everybody. And then you see him in his apartment, you know, he walks in, and you see him messing with his fish or whatever. He goes to his refrigerator and everywhere. And you can even see the looks on his eyes and his face that he's not really happy with his life, but he tries to stay as positive as possible. I love how they convey characters like that. It's just not without much dialogue, but from the tone and the camera work alone, you can tell what kind of person he is and the turmoil and dilemma that he's going through in the movie. But he gets an opportunity when Apollo Creed hosts a match in Rocky's town. And Apollo's opponents backed out because of a head injury, so Apollo gets the idea to give an underdog a chance. And so he stumbles upon Rocky Balboa and he says, he's perfect, good. Besides, this guy ain't really couldn't be that good at fighting. Besides, I'll just go and fill around with Rocky and then boom, that's the end of the fight. How bad could it be? Rocky decides to go for it, and after a couple of weeks of training, he struggles a little bit. And we even get the iconic scenes of Rocky punching the meat bags and using them as punching bags. Luckily, Balboa accepts an offer from Mickey Goldmill, who trained Rocky, but at the beginning of the film, he kicks Rocky out of his locker because at that point, Mickey, for the past couple of years that Mickey has been training Rocky, he has criticized Rocky for wasting his potential. And we even go to one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's when Mickey visits Rocky at his home. He offers to be his manager, but then Rocky, at that point, he's frustrated with Mickey because after all this time, he's criticized Rocky and wouldn't accept him or whatever. And now all of a sudden, Rocky's starting to getting all this success and about to fight Apollo and whatever. Now he decides to show up. But by the end of that scene, Rocky realizes what he's done. He goes and he accepts Mickey as his manager. Now, I do love Mickey as a character in this movie. He's played by Burgess Meredith. Like Mickey, he is what J.K. Simmons was in the movie Whiplash, but a little less brutal than J.K. Simmons was in Whiplash. He's a hard-ass coach, but at the same time, he does care for Rocky, and he just wants the best for Rocky, and he wants him to be his potential. Now, through all this, Rocky meets Adrian, who he begins a relationship with, and he gradually gains the shy Adrian's trust, culminating into a kiss, and Adrian also happens to be the sister of Rocky's friend, Paulie. The relationship between Paulie and Adrian is very dynamic and complex because it's like the two of them, all they have is each other. And Adrian lives with Paulie, but and Adrian is shy or whatever, but then Paulie, he continues to act like a shitbag to Adrian because he thinks that she is a loser and she's shy and doesn't want to go out or whatever. But ultimately, Paulie, he really does care for Adrian and he just wants best for her. And even in some scenes, Paulie may have gone too far with the mental abuse with Adrian. Now, Paulie, he is a cool friend to Rocky and he's a bit of a hard ass, but he's also an alcoholic. But he does serve as a comedic element to the film, which is always cool and funny. Paulie, he starts to become jealous of Rocky's success, though. Because ultimately, Paulie, he feels that Rocky, he's being ungrateful because Paulie was the one who introduced Rocky to Adrian. But luckily, the relationship between Paulie and Rocky is salvaged when Rocky agrees to advertise Shamrock, which is the meat factory that Paulie works in, on the back of Rocky's ring coat. I love the relationship between Rocky and Adrian. They're two different people, but yet they're different people that understand each other and that click with each other and will support each other. Like Adrian, she starts out all shy, but then she begins to warm up to Rocky, and then she is right there with Rocky. Ultimately, Adrian, she is like that anchor that Rocky needs to get through this situation. And I love the story as well. It's the story about Rocky. He is an underdog. He has a 1 in a million chance, and he finally takes it. And he's finally got the opportunity to prove something to himself and to run to his potential. And it even shows through 2 points in the movie. And it's, of course, doing that iconic montage scene when Rocky is running and training and punching, and then he runs up that little, I don't know what the building is, but when he's running up all those stairs, and then he's like, yes! Of course, that scene is so iconic, but personally, I like the other montage scenes that follow, because they get better and better with each movie. But this one will always have a place in everyone's heart, because it was that montage that started it all. And of course, there was also montage training parodies that followed. And the second scene that definitely conveyed Rocky's turmoil within the movie about him going the distance, it's the scene where he's walking through the arena where he's going to fight Apollo, but then he goes on to Adrian and he says he doesn't even care about winning. He just wants to go the distance with Rocky. It just proves that he can go a bunch of rounds with Apollo. See, it's not about winning. It's about how far he can go. And of course, there's a speech that follows in the 6th film, but we'll get to that later. But what I like about Rocky is essentially Rocky, he is a symbol of hope and proves that anyone can achieve their dreams or their goals. Now we finally get to the film, and then we get Apollo Creed with his dramatic entrance. He really doesn't have a care. He really thinks that he's just going to go and beat up on Rocky and win. But no, when he first meets Rocky, he's going hard on Apollo, and then he knocks him out within the first round. And then at that point, Apollo, he's like, wait a minute. So this guy's serious. Alright, okay, you know what, that's it. Alright, come on, punk, let's go. And of course the fight goes on for like 12 rounds or whatever, and he's going, and Rocky, he's really letting him have it. Apollo's letting him have it. Long story short, it was a tie between the two. Apollo wins the fight. Rocky said in the movie, he doesn't care. He just wanted to go the distance with Rocky, and everyone is cheering for him. Cheering for Rocky, he's feeling proud of himself. And by the end, there are a bunch of things going on. Like Apollo, he's pretty much celebrating for his win. All the announcers are asking Rocky how did he do it or whatever. And then Adrian, she's in the background, and she runs over to Rocky because Rocky, he's calling out, "Yo, Adrian!" He's calling out for Adrian and everything. And then she finally gets to Rocky, and then they tell each other they love one another. And then that's the end of the movie. Now, to me, that's a perfect way to end the movie, but the endings get better with each movie, particularly in the 2nd film. In the end, Rocky is a great film. It is a classic among movie fans and people in general. But for me, personally, the first Rocky is not particularly my favorite, though. I'll get to my favorite Rocky films a little later, though. But that doesn't mean that I think that this Rocky film is a piece of shit. I love this Rocky movie, and it definitely is a good start with the series. This movie definitely doesn't deserve to get trashed. Don't get it twisted, though. Especially after everyone working so hard to get this movie off the ground. Like, there's a documentary, it's like Sylvester Stallone, who plays Rocky. He wrote this film, and he worked so hard to get this movie made. And ultimately, that story is an underdog story in itself, because the movie was very successful. It won a lot of awards. I'm telling you, watch the documentary. I'll put the link in the description below. Again, even though this isn't one of my favorite Rocky films, I'll always have a spot in my heart for this Rocky film. And this film is definitely a classic in itself, and I can understand why people love this film, and this film was definitely well made. So that's why I'm going to give the first Rocky an A++. Thank you so much for watching this review, and again, once a month I'm going to review each Rocky film leading up to this Rocky spin-off, Creed, which comes out in November. So therefore, next I'm going to review Rocky 2. And have you seen Rocky? Do you like it, love it, hate it, or whatever? However you feel about this movie, do you think it's a classic? Tell me, how do you feel about this movie? Leave your answer in the comment section below. That's it for today. Like what you see, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to my other channel. The links are in the description below. And be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Periscope, and Movie Pilot. Peace.